Hey YouTube, good morning. Well, it's the 23rd of December and I've got a funny story for you. So I was supposed to be on my way to Nashville right now. We had a 6 a.m. departure out of Jacksonville to Nashville, and we got all the way through security. This is me and my whole family, wife and 2 kids, all the way through security, waiting at the gate. Flight was canceled due to this snowstorm that's going through. So we were able to very quickly get in our apps and rebook for a nonstop tonight out of Jacksonville at 9 p.m. So I've got some time to make a video on FSDBeta 10.69.25 that finally came to my car last night. A lot of people already have this and are driving it, so this video may not be new to any of you, but many watching overseas and that don't have FSD, this is for you. I'm going to do a Memorial Park drive, see if there's any small changes. Many people that have driven this said this is basically the holiday release for 10.69, obviously .25, implying Christmas Day perhaps. The release notes have been out there on the internet for a little while, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but basically it's bringing us up to the .44 branch and adding FSD onto it. I was on a Twitter Spaces last night with Elon, and it did not sound like V11 was imminent. He kind of started stuttering a little bit on his words when Omar brought it up and let me ask a couple questions about FSD to him last night. So for a while there, I thought maybe we were going to get it before Christmas, and now we're kind of hoping before New Year's, but I'm not so sure. Let them take their time. He commented a little bit on some extra neural nets being added. But in any case, we got a 7:30 a.m. Drive here with a little bit of traffic, and let's see how Memorial Park goes. All right, here we go. So unprotected right turn at our famous turns location. There's the creep limit. Is she going out there? And okay, good, it stopped. Oh, no, don't creep any further. That's interesting. It kept on creeping and he had to tap his brakes. It went all the way out to the limit and now it's joining the right lane. So that was fine, but it did a little bit of a creep that kind of concerned that driver that was in this lane. I saw his headlights dip a little bit as he tapped his brakes, but it looks like it went all the way out to the creep limit, which is pretty far out there at that turn, but it is safe if it stops at the line. So I have not heard any major differences on this build from those of you that have been commenting on Twitter. Interesting, we're getting windshield wipers and there's no rain. That may be something to talk about on this release already. It's cloudy, the windshield is clean, but there's no rain. So I'm not so sure, that this is much of a change from 3.3. In the release notes, it does say minor bug fixes. So maybe we'll see a little bit on this drive. Some of those situations arise. I'm really hoping for V11 soon. The single stack, while I'm excited for it, I think it is going to be transformational for the way that the stacks work together. I'm not expecting it to be amazing right out of the gate. Obviously, the delays on getting it out are meaning that they're finding issues that they don't feel are ready for the public, or even a small test group, that they could deploy it to. So it's employees only right now. Elon did mention last night on that Twitter Spaces that they were up to like version 11.2, or I even heard him say .3. Interesting slowdown on that double green light scenario there. If you noticed that, slowed down at that green. This was green. There was no cars, and it hit the brakes and went all the way down to 38 miles an hour there. Yeah, so when V11 comes out, it's probably not going to be V11.0. It's probably going to be V11. Something. All right, here's our little turn here to reorient our drive towards Memorial Park and kind of get a little bit more of the neighborhood action. All right. Apple Music is probably one of the biggest things in this one that I was looking forward to. Obviously, that's not anything to do with FSDBeta, but the Apple Music and the music controls, they do have a new little kind of a media control bar down here that is nice. And, you know, it's obviously nice. I used Spotify for years, but I moved over to Apple Music for kind of an all-in-one sort of deal with some of the storage requirements I have for phones and iPads. Ooh, kind of went a little bit wide right and then left there. That was a new behavior at that turn, to where it cut right and then left before we entered the intersection. Interesting. I felt a little bit different there. This is the section of the drive where we have a few little pedestrian crosswalks that we've had some interesting behavior. And if you notice here, this navigation UI has changed a little bit with this little box down here in the lower center. Obviously, that's jumping out to me with the instructions and the fonts being a little bit different up top. I've heard some people say they love it. Some people say they hate it. I'm just going to have to get used to it, as I've just been driving this for the first time today. We do have a small little traffic circle up here. In the past, it's unnecessarily stopped at the yield. It looks like we're going to have a no traffic scenario. So if it stops at this yield, it'll be a little bit disappointing. Obviously, it's mapped it visually correctly, and it comes all the way to a stop. Yeah, and then goes. So I'm going to keep hitting the snapshot button on that one. It shouldn't be doing that. Very slow. It's acting like the pedestrian crosswalks are the location where it's slowing down, but with no traffic in the scenario, it shouldn't be stopping at all. Okay, this one, it's going to be going straight through, so it's got to go around and then take the straight scenario. And that time it went straight through it. The lane network looks like it's doing some good work here. Going underneath the speed limit sign for the school zone that we saw in the last video. It was flashing last time. It still does not recognize any sort of non-standard signage for that. It just goes straight here at the speed limit still. All right, see a little bit of trajectory modification around some of these parked cars. Visualizations look the same. You can see some occupancy network detail popping up there with some of the trash cans and the yard debris on the side of the road. Yeah, I think I like the navigation UI. Some folks said it took some getting used to. I kind of like it. You know, this over here is a little bit far away, but those aren't the details. Up here, the turn information. Got a lot of pedestrians over here to the right. Looks like they're all being mapped appropriately. That's good. They're even on the other side of the sidewalk. Coming up on our flashing yellow. Always usually get a little bit of red that peeps in here. No change. Right there. As they go to the top is when it normally happens. Occasionally off in the distance you get a little bit of red. There's our flashing yellow again. And a little bit of red right on top. This trash can's kind of out of place here. It mapped them. I felt the car go a little bit to the left around it. That was good. I still wish we had a 3/4 screen display right there. That's kind of where I want it. Ooh, pay attention to the road. There's busted number one. Looking at the screen too much while I'm driving. Okay, right on red is legal here. It should creep. Looks like we got a creep limit. Green, and then to the right. Okay, a couple new cones out here. It's gonna have to go around those, see if it maps them. Looks like it is mapping them. Everything's fine there. 4-way stop sign coming up. At this 4-way stop sign, if you remember, as soon as we take a left, there's another stop sign that does not apply to us on the left. And there's a bad 15 mile an hour speed limit that's somehow mapped in here that's not visualized. So there's that stop sign to the left. What's it gonna do this time? All right, it just went to the 15. So I'm gonna have to scroll it up with a car behind me. So it did not stop for the stop sign that time. Don't know if that was traffic related. The speed limit is still there. And I do have a car behind me wondering why I was going 15 in this area. So that's just map data. Don't know how you fix it. If there isn't a sign, you just got to default to something, and obviously map data is where you go there. So you know, all the changes I've ever made, I've never seen populate into the car, whether it be through OpenStreetMaps or any other mapping kind of change. I wish we had a better feedback loop through the Tesla system to help knock those out, but we don't. Trash cans in the road a little bit there. Car coming to the right, identified as blue, just to keep an eye on him, but it did not tap the brakes at all. All right, now we back to our normal speed limit because we passed a sign and it saw it. Pretty straightforward here, not a whole lot to see. The car, there's 3 cars stacked up behind me because I'm going the speed limit. Interesting, this truck kind of creeped over the yellow line a little bit. I felt like we gave him a little bit of a buffer as he kind of took that turn there a little bit on the inside. Green light should proceed straight through. Yeah, it's doing a good job. You know, the roundabouts is the only thing I've felt so far that kind of really didn't. Got a blinker here. Don't know what that. I mean, I guess that was a blinker to stay in the middle lane. Blinkers are still wacky. I tell you what, you know, I don't know what the solution is or why it's so hard to fix them. Very early on in the early access program with this FSD beta, one of the engineers emailed me and said that they're oddly very difficult. Didn't really explain why, but that statement has obviously held true because they just have not been able to lick the turn signals at all. Keep feeling a couple brake taps here. I mean, we're down to 28 and a 30 there. Not exactly sure what it's slowing down for other than just keeping under the speed limit. It feels like it's just a little bit hesitant at something. I mean, obviously, as a human driver, I'd probably be a couple miles an hour over the speed limit, and I keep feeling the car tugging just a little bit below it. Some pedestrians off in the distance crossing. We got a red light here. Yeah, this is doing just fine. You know, a little bit slow, I guess, is all I would say. So as we come up here and turn right into this small little alleyway, as if you remember the last video, there was a pedestrian off to the right, and the car very quickly identified the pedestrian, but I definitely startled them. Here, nice, whoa, kind of a jerky acceleration there. Why it would use that much acceleration on that turn, I have no idea. Completely unnecessary. I don't think that was appropriate at all. And that is the exact scenario I was talking about. Had there been a pedestrian there again this week, it would have been like, where are you going? Are you going to hit me? So it's interesting where it decides to use its acceleration. All right, we'll put the return in there. We'll let it remap, and we will hit the road on the return. So this intersection has got a very unusual angle, and where it puts the creep limits is always a little bit different. Oh, it's got a little median out there it put in there, but it's got a straight line median, but there is no raised median. Look at these creep limits jumping around. That's not a bad location there, but that median is inaccurate. Yeah, so I'm gonna just tap the snapshot on that one just because the angles on that are very interesting, and it's using that median network, at least that's what it looks like, in an area that today I don't think it's actually functional. Raised medians are the only area I've seen it. I haven't seen it use it at any painted only medians, unless that's, you know, something new for this version. But I've seen that at that intersection before too, so All right, green light with a pedestrian walking towards the street, but it should recognize he's not going into the street, and that worked just fine. He walked all the way up to the edge. This street needs some work. This is going to be definitely one of the streets that I'll very easily know when they have pothole detection working, because there are a lot of potholes in this road that need to be avoided. And as a human, you'd be weaving around each of these very, very bad spots in the street. But it's not there yet. Yeah, I think this is pretty much similar to 69.3.3. I'm not feeling any sort of acceleration, jerkiness, smoothness, any changes there. I feel like they just kind of jumped us up to the 44 build. The wacky windshield wipers at the beginning were perhaps something a little bit different. Oh, where's it going? Is it going left today? Oh, okay, that's good. It's going to go down Riverside Avenue, which is always good to get a little bit of a different view there. We got a nice little turn there. It's going to turn immediately right. We got a green intersection here. Sorry, down St. John's Avenue. I said Riverside. Truck pulled up, so it needs to keep it nice and tight. That was good. Yeah, that was a good interchange there. A nice, tight, turn left, turn right scenario. Got in the right lanes appropriately. Low traffic. It didn't have to fight its way into the intersections at all. I've been watching a few videos while I've been waiting on this version to drop for me, and I have seen, to include Marquise Brownlee's video, and for those of you that haven't watched it, it's a pretty good video to watch because he does not have a lot of time on FSD, and he was definitely confused in the difference between Navigator and Autopilot and FSDBeta and the controls inside the settings that handle lane changes and acceleration and all of the different features we have between these two stacks. And I also think that AI Driver made a good video that described that the complexity that we've built into this level, and for those of you watching this video or kind of keeping up with this complexity, there's a lot of nuance that we're building in here with the different profiles, with even the strikes on the driver monitoring, with the lane changing aggressiveness, with to even mix in with your accelerator aggressiveness, whether or not it be smooth or sport on the Model Y. It's chill or sport on the Model Y. It's not easy for everyone to understand what it should be doing. So I do think we have a little bit of a hill to climb on education as this does continue to go wider and wider. I know just in my own family and with some friends, I'm always having to describe the nuances of these settings and what they do and how they should, play out in usability. So I don't know, understanding, when it's in FSDBeta and when it's in Navigator and Autopilot and how lane changes ought to work and when you're in what mode. And then you mix in enhanced autopilot, whether or not you bought FSD or whether or not you just have the stock car that is using, auto steer in city streets. A lot of people think they have FSDBeta just because they can get auto steer to engage. It's a lot different. All right, so we didn't have any pedestrian interactions there as we kind of went through Avondale, but it did feel like it was kind of creeping a little bit too far to the right on those parking spaces as drivable space. All right, now we're coming up on the S-curve, and the only thing this S-curve consistently gives me is the turn signal blinker behavior on the sharp right turns and the sharp left turn. So just as we come around this corner, I have always gotten a turn signal, and there it is. So continue to get a turn signal as we slowed all the way down to 21. Not going to say that's not a safe speed. It was kind of an aggressive slowdown. And there's the left blinker as we come back to the left. Okay, completely unnecessary, but it is very consistent on it, does it? So planner, number of degrees turned, something like that is how it's doing it. Oh, and on this setting, I do want to mention, underneath lights, I have this new feature, and I guess I did not have it on the beta profile here. Auto cancel turn signals is a new feature on the .44. And here's another right turn. Okay, so as we come up on this intersection, there's a lot that's going to happen. We have to have this roundabout again, and then we're going to continue on into an area that the car has consistently got confused because of the mapping of the roads are new, and it's not in the map data, so it's visually having to find its way. All right, so no traffic with a yield, and it chose not to stop. Little bit jerky. See some lane decisions and lane changing there going on. And right up here, it wants to turn to the right, and it wants to go over here. Now I'm in the bike lane, and then it came back over. So that little, where do I need to go? And see, look at this. It thinks this little parking spot is a turn, and it's very, very, very confused. It's got it mapped correctly, but the map data just isn't what it expected or something, and it's just very, very, very slow there. So I continue to hit the snapshot button on that one. That intersection, just because it's different than, they've redone it with those traffic circles, the car is seeing something that this map isn't showing it. And when I say this map, this is obviously the visualization of the map. There's a metadata layer under here that the car understands and uses to navigate. Something in there it just doesn't like. So anyway, okay, coming up on an unprotected left here. This is the only kind of similar one to my drive. I've described it many, many times on this exact same scenario. There's a traffic light to the left. There's a median that will allow it to go to the median, and it's already mapping that median. The traffic is light right now. I can already tell this is going to be a gimme. The light's red. The traffic stopped from the left, so it can go out and all the way right now. So it should not even stop in the median. And it did just fine. So that was another good example of this car has got the functionality built into it to do the maneuver. The variable that constantly gives it either really good or really bad performance is its operational environment, the traffic, the pedestrians, the speed of the traffic, and then of course humans that interact with it. So, you could have a car that's in the median and is waving you through. It can't understand a car waving you through other than just waiting on the impatience of the other driver when this car chooses to move or not move. So, hey, it did it. I'm proud of it. It was a good turn. But I don't want that to come across as they've solved it. There's still some more traffic interaction that has to be solved. And I think that's just more training and more time. The question I actually asked Elon last night on the Twitter Spaces was, I kind of thanked him for dedicating the time to make my unprotected left-hand turn work. But was that an example of engineers can solve anything with that amount of time? Or are they going to start to be able to take, situations like that and scale it? Do they have to solve every one of these difficult situations with that level of effort? Or can they take some of these as lessons to use? Whoa, very aggressive there. That was an intervention with an accelerator because of the way that car came to the median, and I did not want the car behind me to rear end me. You've always got to be ready for those. This car will stop very fast, and if somebody was tweeting or texting or doing something behind me and I unnecessarily stopped, that's just ripe for an accident. That was aggressive too. So I don't know why the car thought his vector was coming out. They've done a lot of work on these neural networks on projecting those trajectories of all these other cars pretty well. But for some reason that time, it didn't like it. Hopefully I'm not running out of snapshots. I know a lot of you are envying the fact that I still have my snapshot button. I don't know the rule on why I have mine, and some of you don't. Most of you don't. But it's still on my car, which means it's not a build difference or some sort of underlaying user setting I have that allows that camera to still be there. Okay, so we are coming up on the end of the drive here. We got a couple more interactions here. We got another double green light scenario here. Let's see if it works. 45, and look, there it is. Slows down to 42 and then reaccelerates. There's something about double green lights. Right as soon as you go underneath the first one, it always slows down a little bit and then it reaccelerates back to the speed limit for the second one. If I had had my speed slid up to over the speed limit and been going around 50, it would have aggressively slowed down even more. There's some sort of nuance around the speed limit and how much you're going on, over, or under. If I had this scrolled down to under the speed limit, it wouldn't have slowed down at all. So it's got something to do with the speed limit interaction at a double green light scenario. I've got a couple videos dedicated just to that. You know, when I find that the behavior is still there, I don't go out and dedicate a whole lot of video to it. But speed limit, the distance between the stoplights obviously has a little bit to do with it. And then the amount of speed it slows down is proportional to the amount of speed above or below the speed limit that is selected and the car is going. All right, so this drive is pretty much over. We got one unprotected forward-facing left turn here at the light. And I'm going to say that this is the same as 3.3. The roundabouts are still a little bit wonky with the yields being stop or not stop. All right, it's going to think the road is clear. And, it wasn't completely clear, but those cars were completely blocked. It just happened to be fine. Yeah, so there we go. I'm just disengaging because we are at the destination point I have mapped. Let me know what you think. This is the holiday release, 10.69.25 in memorial of Christmas Day, I'm guessing is where the 25 came from. A lot of features with Apple Music, some auto lane change signal turning off. A lot of those things are in the release notes that are publicly available. You guys can go out and take a look at those on a Tesla Scope or Not a Tesla app or a few other places like that that do a good job with release notes. In your case, let me know in the comments below what you think of this drive. If my flight today cancels again, maybe we'll have some time for some unprotected lefts. But for the time being, this is the first video I got out. Have a Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays if you don't celebrate Christmas. And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.